Thank you. All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. I understand that we've started kind of an initiative and a project to launch part of one of the feature items on the Who's Next platform, that being the appointment calendar. And as we've been vetting the process, there are two issues that have kind of manifested. One being the auto import, data import functionality, as well as the 365 integration, which leans on the data import functionality. So I understand there were some concerns and some issues with respect to some of the processes that were going on behind the scenes. So I wanted to kind of bring us all together to see if we can come up with a solution to see if we could make this happen. So I guess, Bob, why don't you get started, because I know I kind of made this request and you took it from there. So give us an understanding of kind of what it is, and then maybe we can start engaging everybody else to kind of share what's going on.
Very good. Thank you very much. Arlo has actually done the extract of the data already and has that in place in a testing environment. And what it's going to do is it's meeting the requirements of gathering everybody who is in the current semester that's active and also the upcoming semester, so that that extract is ready to go. It's ready to be tested. I've actually viewed the data, so it looks good. And now we just need to figure out the interface of how do we get it? How do we get it there? And Edgar Chukley from our team had said that something about a go anywhere interface to meet the FSTP requirement. So that's where we're sitting at right now to figure out how do we establish that particular interface.
Hey, Bob, this is Jody. So just to follow up on it, thank you for your explanation. So does the gentleman have the credentials that we provided already that would allow him to send a file to us via the Go Anywhere software?
So let's pause there for a second, because I'm the Go Anywhere. I'm going to be speaking about Go Anywhere. But Bob, okay, you created that ticket, but we pushed back saying that we didn't have, you just opened a ticket and I said it doesn't work that way because it's a new project and we need to discuss project details we need to meet. And Ron came back and said that y'all are going to use a different method. So he said, don't worry about Go Anywhere. You're going to use some other method to use SFTP, not FTPS.
Right.
So
and
Ron
and Jody clarified that it's their only method is the FSTP.
So you can only do FTPS, Jody.
That is correct. Unfortunately, yes, sir. At this time, yes, sir. We just allow for that protocol.
I've never heard this before. This is new for me today, this information.
Okay.
So if we're going to use Go Anywhere to try to create this, it's not as simple just create it, because we don't even have it existing. We have to create this from scratch in terms of this workflow. The Go Anywhere will support FTPS, but it's not just you configure it and you plug in a username and password and you're good. I have to actually create a whole workflow and create a whole process. So we'd have to meet to discuss what is it trying to do, what's the end goal, what files can be transferred. It's a whole big thing. And it'll take me at least 2 months to create this with our current workload. So if I'm creating this, then we need to discuss this in another meeting purely about FTPS. And then we have to discuss, and I'd recommend an hour-long meeting, because we're going to need to discuss what's the goal, what are you trying to do, what files are we trying to transfer, are we encrypting, are we not encrypting?
Hey, Daniel, hold on. And I get it. And you're right. I told you to hold off on it because the vendor doesn't do SFTP. So Jody, why are you guys not capable of doing SFTP? Is this because it's not your chosen file transfer protocol?
Yes, sir. The server that we have that's running this application, when we set it up, and we have all our other schools running on it, right now it's configured for FTPS. We have not been able to convert it over or update anything to SFTP. So that is correct.
So Christine, that's the one that I emailed you on a few days ago, right?
Right.
And so we got to figure out how to do this. I'm with Daniel. For him to be able to do this, it's gonna take 2-3 months easily. Right? So Jody, what about other alternative, do you guys do any external drive that we can go ahead and upload it to, like, say, to an Azure? Can you do that as well, or no?
We have not. Let me give that some thought. We have not done that yet. We've never had a school request that. I'm not totally against that. If we need to figure out another workaround, we'd be happy to do that. That could potentially work. I don't see all this up in my head right now, but I mean, if there's a way we could tunnel in or allow you to drop a file to another Azure server or something else we're doing, we'll be happy to look into that for you. Yes, sir. We just haven't done that with any of the other schools that are currently using our auto.
Is that, Daniel, is that possible? Do we have some type of subscription with Azure, just like very similar what we've done with our Frequency Foundry partner with
No,
regards
because that's
Dynamics?
Frequency Foundry actually hooked into our tenant. They plugged in with our tenant. There is no sharing of anything between outside vendors, and we don't allow like OneDrives or things like that to be shared outside external to HCC. Security made that call, so nothing can be shared outside. So it'd have to be Jody's side that has something available to share with us that we could drop off.
Right,
without-
do you have anything available, Jody? Where we can drop it, where we can drop up that file, that text file?
Potentially. I don't see all the internal workings on our side, but I'll be happy to work with your team and try to figure this out.
I mean, Jody, I'm sure we're not the only school that's having this issue, that we don't have FTPS on-prem, right? So,
Actually, no, sir. Of all the schools that are using our system and are sending the data files over, they are using the same protocols. And yes, so we've never encountered this before.
so how many schools do you guys do business with?
Oh, right now, we have over 200 campuses, but as far as the auto import wizard, we have, at least a couple of dozen that send us data files every single morning.
Are all those schools Windows based for that are doing that FTPS?
I'm not sure on that, sir. I'm not sure on that answer. All we do is our auto import wizard just looking for the incoming data file via the FTP transfer, and then as soon as we catch it, it reads it and puts it into there. So as far as what's being used on their side, I don't have that information. But if we need to look into some other alternative, I'm just trying to figure out how we would
Do you
that.
guys
I'm not
offer,
sure.
like, for example, VPN tunnel?
Not at this time, sir.
Not at this time. What about web services? Any type of XML file that we can integrate with?
Yes, we do have a series of some web service applications, yes, sir, that we could potentially use and open up. I'm just thinking here.
Is that
Do
something
you all
that's
have do
doable?
you all have any kind of web service on your side that we could tunnel in and authenticate in real time? Is that a
Yeah,
possibility?
we can. Yeah, we can do that. We can use, because PeopleSoft does provide you with integration tools. It's delivered, and we can build on that.
We would be happy to look into doing that instead. So instead of
Again,
actually sending the data file over via
Christine, that's an overkill, because web services is mostly used for real-time interface,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that we may have to code for, but it's an overkill from a connectivity standpoint. So
I'm just trying to figure out what kind of like realistic solutions can we come up with, because
well, IT has to figure out for you, Christine. You're not going to be able to figure this out. This is very technical.
no, I understand that. And that's why I brought you
Right.
guys to the table.
So Daniel, from an FTPS standpoint, is that something that can we do? Can you wait, Christine, 2-3 months for this?
That's really not my call. This has kind of been Marlon's project. I've just kind of liaison because it's got a little more technical. So there was an expectation for this to launch in the fall.
That's not gonna happen, Christine.
So I mean, if that's not gonna happen, then I mean, if the powers that be are amenable to pushing the launch date to spring, then, I mean, I personally can't make that call, but
Well, the web services component of it is gonna take, it's probably gonna be like a month, 6 to 8 weeks. Just to get that
May I make a suggestion?
developed, test, and implement. Yes, go ahead, Jody.
So even though this similar this process, the Auto Import Wizard, is very similar to what we had in our older version that ran on premise. So just a suggestion, what we could do while the 2 or 3 months, you know, that we need to get this up and running on Daniel's side, maybe just a suggestion, what if we actually deployed our Auto Import Wizard, that entire process, and maybe run it locally on premise on your side, so the file isn't actually going outside your network. Maybe it's actually just being transferred from one file to another, or one server to another, and then from there we could connect the Auto Import Wizard to hit the cloud database. You know what I mean? So it's essentially running it on your premise, but hitting the cloud database versus having to transfer the file outside to our server via FTPS. That's a potential workaround in the meantime, a band-aid until we get the file transfer protocol working for your side.
I want to make sure I want to make sure that I understand this. So it's the old process we were was an on-prem. We upload the file to a shared drive internally on-prem. And what do you
That is
do?
correct. Yes, sir.
And then what's the next step?
The file is then read to our Auto Import Wizard, the backend process, and then from there it uploads it to the database. That's in the cloud.
So all we need to do is dump this to a file server, right?
Yes, sir. And then we would just give you our Auto Import Wizard that's running, and just run it locally on your side versus having to run it, you know, on our cloud application servers.
And that's secured.
Yes, sir.
So the data is encrypted and then uncrypted.
Yes, sir.
What do you think, Daniel?
I'm sorry, I had some contractors come to my house for a second, so I missed the last like 5 minutes of the conversation.
So the import wizard, Jody, how are you? Is that working right now? Is that, do you guys have a workstation on-prem?
For our current Auto Import Wizard?
Correct.
No, sir. Right now it's in the cloud. It's on one of our cloud application servers, and that's where the FTPS gets the file from that transfer protocol.
So how are you going to access our
suggesting,
file internally? To VPN?
No, so what I would do is we could actually package up our Auto Import Wizard, the web service that's running on our server, and just give it to you all, and just say, here's the instructions on how to run it locally in your site. Again, what I'm suggesting, this is just a temporary band-aid, but if we gave it to the web service, or the web service to run on one of your servers locally, that file transfer that we're talking about on Daniel's side can just go from one server on your server to another one of your servers. Everything's internal. And as soon as it picks it up, that application, the Auto Import Wizard, can be configured to say, okay, great, here's the data file. Now upload the student data into your cloud,
Right.
kind of database.
Daniel, this is very similar to robo-register technology.
So,
Is that doable?
I didn't get a breakdown. You just asked another question, so I didn't get a breakdown of what the agreement was.
So what happens, Daniel? We used to have Who's Next, right? Who's Next is on-prem and was supported by Thomas Group. We would run a process in PeopleSoft and place that to a file server on premises, right? And then there's a process where they're going to run that import wizard to the cloud database. And they're gonna send us an instruction how to do that. Very similar to robo-register when we get that file. Now, all we need probably is some type of a Windows file server out there that can actually.
Again, it's the same process, I guess. You told me historically what's going on. What's the plan, or what's the recommended solution? Let's start from there. Is it? I understand there's an Auto Import Wizard that's in the cloud. So y'all generate a file from the PeopleSoft system. What happens after that?
We create the file and place that to a file server in ACC on-prem.
Okay.
And there is an import wizard that's gonna connect to that file and upload that to the cloud on Who's Next.
Where is this is this run on a server? Is it automatically run? Like, is it a batch type thing?
It's a batch, correct? Am
So
I
you
right,
just need
Jody?
a server.
Yeah, we can
Yes, sir. So our
probably,
auto,
we
yes,
can probably create it on a, we either need Enrico here or Edgar. We can probably put it on a RoboReg server so you don't have to build a server.
it can run on an existing Windows server. It doesn't need its own dedicated, and all it basically does is it's just running. It's built as a Windows service, so it just runs behind the scenes, and it's just looking at for a folder on that particular server. And then so once your file is generated within PeopleSoft, and that file gets dropped into this one particular folder that it's watching, our auto import wizard sees it, reads the text file, uploads it to the database. It's essentially what it does on our web server, but we're just running it locally on your end until we get the whole, to file transfer, HTTPS,
So-
issue ironed
So
out.
Ron,
to a
we
quick one.
had dedicated servers for Who's Next before. What happened to those, and
They're
can
gone.
we
They're
repurpose them?
gone.
They're
They got-
gone.
They got repurposed.
Okay, so what do we need to do to facilitate? I mean, I'm not sure, like, I'm not sure. I guess I'm thinking of what the end-to-end encryption is gonna look like, because I think that's gonna be a concern, obviously. So I'm just wondering, like, that's probably, when a day and I talked, that was something that he expressed some concerns about. So, like, how can we mitigate for that, as well?
That's why we're talking about it now with Daniel,
Mhm.
Christine.
So you're
So what
wanting
we
on-
can do, just as far as security goes, even though it's connecting from your server to our database, we have that taken care of. And we have web services that already have that passing of the data, HTTPS encrypted. All the data that's being flowing in is going into your single tenant database, so it's not in some like big master database that all the schools that read and access to. So that handshake, that transfer of data, it's not a problem. Even though it's going from your side to ours, it's still being encrypted in transit, basically. So we have that, and then
So Daniel, I'm sorry, Jody. So Daniel, so Daniel's a key piece of this, right? So Daniel, if we utilize the RoboRegister existing server, which sits on a Windows box, we'll create a drive letter to point to a web services that service is going to be running on, that Jody's going to provide to us once it finds it, and it's going to upload it over to their cloud. I think that's doable, Daniel.
So from my understanding, there's a software. So, okay, you're gonna put this on the current RoboRegister server
Correct.
under a different drive path or something,
Correct.
right? Folder.
That's correct.
And there's a software that's going to be running on the server that will connect automatically and connect outbound to the Who's Next cloud system and upload this file. Is that how that works?
so what it's gonna do is when that file gets dropped into that folder there on your server, our system, our web service reads it line by line, basically student by student, and it transfers that information. So it's not transferring the entire file over. It's just reading it line by line, and then consuming that, and then sending that to our cloud database on our side.
Okay. So Rob,
So
why
the
can't
file's
we
not
just-
going anywhere.
All we need is a public IP address, right, Daniel?
no, not even that. Why can't we just do this permanently? Because if it's outbound, there's no firewall or anything. As long as the server is initiating the connection, our server internal is initiating the connection.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There's no firewall.
I agree.
Yeah, it could be a permanent solution. That's not a problem. We just provide this because it just allows schools to say, okay, great. They generate a file, they drop it to our web server, and it goes from there. But if we want to continue running this on-prem on your side and it's still hitting our cloud database, I'm 100% cool with that.
Hey, Bob, what exactly are we sending Who's Next? What fields? Besides the
They have-
Apple ID and WID?
I think first name, last name, email address, and Apple ID. I think those are the only fields.
Mhm,
4 fields?
Correct.
And that's just to do I think the authentication
Yeah,
portion. Yeah.
Daniel, it's very doable, man. We already have an existing server out there. All we need to do is create another drive letter and
Okay.
then install that services on that server. Obviously, I gotta get Enrico involved because he does have admin access to that
Okay.
server.
Ron, I'm being pulled in two different places. I have to talk to this guy real quick. I think that's a good solution though. I think it'll work for me. on
It
this.
will? All right, Daniel.
I think so.
So let me make sure we understand this. So we have an established server, yes. So is that correct?
What's that, Christine?
We have an established server, correct, that we can tap into to create the
Yes, we
file
do.
letter,
Yes,
correct?
we do. Yes.
So then all we need, so at this point, we need to just route the query information to that server, correct?
Yes, yes, from a
Okay.
layman term standpoint, yes.
Okay, so, which should be, I'm assuming fairly simple because I'm sure we generate daily enrollment in some form or fashion. And so from there, we then,
My team will provide the auto input wizard, basically the software to install it locally on that machine and run it from there. That would be the next step after getting the server set up or identified.
and this is something that's capable of being automated on a daily basis.
Yes, because what it does is our software is running 24/7. As long as that web service is running on that server, it's always on. It's always on, and it's always listening and looking for an incoming file on your server on that folder. So as soon as a file is detected, it reads it and uploads it. So Daniel or Bob's process, they can run that job run every midnight, 1, 3 in the morning. It doesn't matter. You can run it multiple times a day. It doesn't matter. As long as that file gets generated and dropped in, our software, our auto input wizard picks it up and reads it and uploads it to the cloud.
Okay, so if this is an agreeable solution, what is our ETA on this realistically, gentlemen?
On our side, on the Who's Next side, we can get that our auto input wizard package up and running within the next day or two. I mean,
Yeah,
it's already up and running. We just got to package it up.
I'm kind of talking to Ron, Daniel, Bob.
So Ron, from your side, who's managing this software?
Enrico's gonna be managing because he manages the server now.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. So there shouldn't be any permissions or anything he needs. He already has
Correct.
everything.
He has everything.
So
that
he just needs to
needs.
create a new folder and install the software
Then you install the software and you create a new drive letter.
and then just pick the
And
batch
obviously there's a people sub that runs is going to write it to that folder,
right.
right? Which is an SQL process. That SQL process will upload that file, that record, and then once that service is run on that server, it should upload back to the cloud. Right, Christine, this is not something that's quick and easy, right? We have to set it up, we have to test. This process is not something that we deploy within
No,
days.
but I'm asking for a realistic ETA because
We're probably right around 1st of August. And
okay.
obviously you got people on vacation, summer days. So probably I'm not gonna make it, that's why, you're putting an ETA, which I'm not gonna be able to provide to you solidly because I have people on vacation. And by August, if we miss August, you got what we call all hands on deck for fall registration. So if we miss August implementation, it'll probably be September.
Okay, I need to give something hard to my leadership, so
All right, if you want to do something hard, September, 2nd of
Okay.
September. All right, in the meantime, we'll work on it to have it ready for you guys by early August. If not, we miss that date. I got people on vacation, Christine. So the heavy lifting people, it's going to be Edgar and Enrico, and they're going to be on vacation.
yeah, I understand that, Ron, but I also would argue that the query's already there, so we need to kind of keep that in mind too. We
The
run
query's not there,
daily
Christine.
enrollment
The query-
every day, so.
No, yeah, the query is not there. It's a process. It's not a query. Carlo had
But
to write
we
the
feed it to
process.
we feed it to other platforms, so I want to just keep that in mind too. So if we're able to do that, then let's try to be realistic about this too, that we're essentially feeding this to.
You asked me the timeline, Christine. I'm giving a realistic
I
timeline.
understand.
September.
I'm trying to liaison and buffer. So
Okay,
I don't want anything else coming, your direction. So let's work together on trying to mitigate this.
September, okay?
All right, I'll bring this back to Dr. Hamilton and let's see what we can do collectively. Jody, I'm sure I'll be in touch with you to further vet this. Daniel, if you need anything from me, I'm sure you don't. But if you need anything, let me know. If you need me, Ron, to connect Jody and Enrico together, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to make a brief introduction and they can figure things out from there.
Now we know what to do. It's just a matter of getting it done.
Okay. All right, Jody. If anybody doesn't have any questions, then I'm glad we're wrapping up and respecting scheduled time. Jody, I'll be in touch with you. I'm sure, gentlemen, if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate. I'm sure we'll be in discussion in the next couple of weeks to vet this. And if anybody needs anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you guys for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for coming up with a solution even better. And hopefully we can fix this process. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank y'all. Jody, can you hang tight for a sec? Are you there?